Morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Robert Reeder with the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. This is an abbreviated version of our responsible liquor sales class that we offer to business owners around the state. My hope is to provide folks with a solid foundation for selling and serving alcohol at their businesses. Let's get started. The overview. During this presentation, I'm going to go over youth access, types of ID, how to properly check ID, apparent signs of intoxication, compliance checks, and cutoffs. Youth access to liquor. So, types of ID, how to properly check ID, and what compliance checks. So what does the law actually say? RCW 6644-270 states, it is unlawful for any person to sell, give, or otherwise supply liquor to any person under the age of 21 years, or permit any person under that age to consume liquor on his or her premises or on any premises under his or her control. Now, what does the law say about minors remaining in off-limits areas? RCW 6644-310, subsection 1, outlines the law against allowing minors to remain in an area classified as off-limits to minors by the WSLCB. For example, some restaurants have bar seating areas that will be off-limits to minors, and some nightclubs that are fully restricted, so minors cannot be on the premises at all. Question. Is it a right or a privilege to purchase alcohol in the state of Washington? It's a privilege. There is no legal right to purchase alcohol. We bring this up because we want you to understand that you have total control of the sales of products in your premises. If you're unsure of the age of a customer, do not sell to them. What are the requirements for someone to purchase alcohol in the state of Washington? There are two. They must be 21 years of age or older, and they must not be showing any apparent signs of intoxication. So what's the date of birth for alcohol purchases today? As of this recording, May 2025, in order to purchase alcohol, a person must be 21 years of age, born on or before today's date in 2004. These stickers are provided by us in the WSLCB and can be provided by your compliance consultant or enforcement officer. Remember to check ID anytime you feel the customer appears useful. Another question. If you check an ID and are still unsure about the age of a person, what should you do? A, have a coworker check. B, have someone else vouch for the person. C, have a manager make the decision if you should sell. D, do not sell. The answer is D. Do not sell. A and C are possible extra steps that can be taken to help verify a person's age, but should not be the only method used. Remember, the person who sells to the person under 21 is held responsible for that sale. How to properly check IDs. 1. Ask for the ID. Have the customer hand you the ID. Check the date of birth. Check the expiration date. Check the photo. Check the signature. And verify other information. What is required on an acceptable form of ID? There are 3 requirements. The identification must be valid, not expired, and show the bearer's date of birth, the bearer's signature, except for a U.S. military ID, and a photograph of the card bearer. So what types of ID are acceptable for alcohol purchases? Here are some examples of acceptable ID. We're constantly updating the list of acceptable tribal IDs, so if you have any questions, please refer to our website for the most updated information. So this is the current Washington ID and driver's license vertical format issued when someone's under 21. When someone's under 21 years old and they obtain a driver's license or ID card, it will be vertically formatted, such as this. If someone hands you a card that's vertically formatted, take extra caution when checking them. This is the horizontal format for a Washington ID issued to people who are over the age of 21. And this is the old ID format. This was phased out in 2022, so you'll still see some of these floating around, but you'll see some minor differences, such as the license number does not have WDL in the front, and the age 18 on the bottom of the ghost image is still there. Temporary ID. Washington temporary IDs in combination with an expired ID are an acceptable form of ID, but they need to be presented together. And this is an example of a U.S. military ID. As you can see, there is no physical signature anywhere on the card. This is the only ID that has an exception to that signature rule. So remember, except for US military IDs, all acceptable forms of ID must have a date of birth, a signature, and a picture of the card holder. The reason most of these, such as birth certificates, Social Security cards, and Department of Corrections cards, are not acceptable forms of ID is that they are missing one or more of these requirements. So what if an ID has a hole punched in it? This ID is still legal for alcohol purchases, but you must check the following. The punched hole should not obstruct critical information such as the date of birth, physical description, expiration date, photo, or signature. So John's sample here is out of luck because one of the holes is right over his date of birth, as you can see right here. So this would not be an acceptable form of ID because you cannot see what his date of birth is. If you have any concerns, do not sell. ID checking technology. It helps confirm what you already know, but improper use can put you and your employer at risk. Improper use involves doing things like not using the technology properly, or ignoring it or bypassing it when it's saying that somebody is underage. The best defense against this is to know how to properly check ID. Some examples of ID checking technology are ID scanners that are built into existing point-of-sale systems or phone applications, UV blacklights, and ID checking guides. The ID checking guides are updated every year with the most up-to-date security features of IDs. It's important to note that these are not published by the state of Washington, so in order to obtain one, you would need to purchase them from the publisher themselves. Now, elements of Washington state IDs. These are things to look out for to make sure that the ID that you're checking is legitimate. Number 1, date of birth. Number 2, the issuer date of ID. Number 3 is the expiration date. Number 4 is the signature. Number 5 is this ghost portrait on the right-hand side of the ID. This will be on vertical and horizontally formatted IDs. Number 6 is a fine line pattern running horizontal on top of the ID, this line right here. Number 7 is the microprint running under the horizontal underline, which you can't see here, but the microprint says Washington over and over again, that line that's right here. Number 8 is the wave pattern in the lower right that overlaps the portrait and the expiration date. So there's a wave pattern right here that's going to overlap this expiration date and the picture. It should overlap it. Number 9 is the microprint wave pattern that runs horizontal on the bottom of the ID. There's a wave pattern just on the bottom you'll be able to see right here. Number 10 is a geometric pattern that overlaps the portrait image. So you'll see a geometric pattern that's going to overlap the picture. Number 11 is the Washington hologram and state that repeats across the front, and the state seal is also on the back in UV ink, which is why a black light is a good tool to have. That'll be along the middle. You'll be able to see that under a black light. And number 12 is this foil printed tree. Types of fake IDs. There are manufactured IDs, there are altered IDs, and there are misrepresented IDs. Manufactured IDs. These IDs are produced to look authentic. They can be from any state, but often people use out-of-state IDs, so employees and business owners are less familiar with that specific state's ID characteristics. Look for things like security features that can be seen easily. If the seals of authenticity can be seen easily without difficulty, the ID could be fake. Check the weight and the thickness of the ID. That is why I mentioned in previous slides it's important to take the ID out of the person's wallet and physically hold it in your hand. Check the color resolutions of the ID. If it's low resolution, it could be a fake ID. And check the fonts of the ID. If the font looks unprofessional or the fonts differ throughout the ID, that's a good indicator that it's a fake ID. Altered IDs. Look for information that has been added to the ID. Lines that vary in alignment, font, or clarity. Erasing of information then overriding it. This is a problem particularly with the US military ID. The date of birth on the back can be erased and then written over. Fuzzy sections around critical information. Old information that can be seen around the edges of the writing. A photo added. Creases between the photo and the remainder of the ID. lamination added that keeps the photo and information on the ID itself. If it looks unprofessional, like it wasn't done by the Department of Licensing, it could be a fake ID. Misrepresented IDs. Fraudulent use is a person using someone else's ID card. To detect, compare the picture and ask questions. Ask the person information on the ID. What's the address? What's your zip code? Have the person presenting the ID sign a separate piece of paper with their signature and make a comparison with the signature on the ID. As for other forms of ID with signatures on it, if the true owner of the ID gave it to the minor to use, both of them can be cited criminally. For example, if big brother or big sister gave it to little brother or little sister to purchase alcohol, both big brother and little brother, big sister and little sister can be held criminally responsible. Question: can you take someone's ID from them permanently or deface a person's ID? Keep in mind that you are taking somebody else's property. You can hold the ID for a reasonable amount of time to call law enforcement to examine the ID, so hold on to it and say you need to call the police in order to verify this person's age. Note the information on the license for law enforcement, taking a photo. However, if the person starts getting belligerent or aggressive towards you, it is not worth a physical altercation or a fight to hold on to that person's ID card. Just give it back. Compliance checks. So compliance checks are operations run by WSLCB enforcement officers, and the purpose of the compliance check is to see if your licensed premises is following the laws with respect to age when selling alcohol. Compliance checks may be conducted at off and on-premise locations. Delivery and curbside compliance checks may also be conducted. Us in the WSLCB, police departments, and health departments can perform compliance checks at your premises. The modern investigative aids that we use for compliance checks in the WSLCB do not look overly mature for their age. They do not show fake or altered IDs. They show their real issued IDs from the Department of Licensing. They may present their real ID or none at all. It depends on the employee. If the minor investigative aid is asked for their age, they can say they are 21, just like any other minor would do when attempting to purchase alcohol. So when compliance checks are conducted, a majority of the employees that ask for ID do not sell. As of this recording, the percentage of businesses that pass our compliance checks are around 80 to 85%. But here are some reasons why some employees will still sell even after checking ID. They do the math incorrectly in their head, they're distracted, trying to multitask or do too many things at once, they're unable to read the ID, or they simply are not trusting or understanding of the ID technology. As I mentioned in previous slides, they'll either ignore what the technology is telling them, or they'll bypass it. Or they'll confuse the dates on the ID. As I mentioned previously, some of the old format still has age 18 on under the ghost photo, while the new format does not have that, it only says age 21 on. Or not knowing how to confront an underage ID. Not checking ID greatly increases the risk of selling and breaking the law. Overservice. So during this section, we're going to discuss definitions of apparent signs of intoxication and how to properly and safely cut off an apparently intoxicated individual. So what is overservice of alcohol? What does the law actually say? RCW 6644-200 states that no person shall sell any liquor to any person apparently under the influence of liquor. No person who is apparently under the influence of liquor may purchase or consume liquor on any premises licensed by the board. This also involves providing in any way. So not just selling, but providing as well. Selling alcohol to an apparently intoxicated person is a crime. However, purchasing or consuming alcohol at a liquor license premises while apparently intoxicated is a civil infraction. So there is consequences for the apparently intoxicated individual as well. So what does the WAC say? According to WAC 314.16.150, take special note of subsection 2. No retail licensee shall permit any person apparently under the influence of liquor to physically possess liquor on the licensed premises. So not only is the apparently intoxicated individual not allowed to consume alcohol while apparently intoxicated, it is the responsibility of the business to ensure that that person does not physically possess liquor on the premises as well. Some definitions. Overservice is a term commonly used in the liquor industry. The legal term is apparently intoxicated. Apparently intoxicated is a standard that's required under RCW 6644-200 and WAC 314-11-015 and WAC 314-16-150 when deciding if a patron needs to get cut off. Apparently intoxicated means that the person does not have to be drunk. The signs of intoxication that are viewed do not have to be obvious, just apparent. There is a difference in these two standards. So what do apparent signs of intoxication look like? This is just a list of a few signs of intoxication. Identifying two or more signs of intoxication will help you confirm that the person is in fact affected by alcohol or cannabis. On occasion, identifying one sign will be enough to reach that threshold. For example, somebody sleeping at the bar while possessing alcohol, someone stating, "I'm so drunk right now," perhaps somebody vomiting on the dance floor. There are occasions where one sign will be enough to determine if a person needs to get cut off. So when should I cut someone off? If a patron in your premises is showing apparent signs of intoxication, you cannot serve them alcohol, you cannot sell them alcohol, you cannot allow them to possess or consume alcohol on the premises. This means you have to cut off the patron and remove the alcohol immediately. You cannot allow them to finish their current drink. The patron does not need to get kicked out of the premises. However, if that person obtains more alcohol somehow, then you are responsible. So if that person who got cut off is with their friends and their friends decide to buy them another drink without the employees knowing, the business is still responsible for that individual. So who is responsible to cut off the premises? Going back to WAC 314-16-150, essentially it boils down, all employees are responsible for managing and preventing overservice. So DUI laws and laws pertaining to overservice are not the same. Liquor laws, which are laws pertaining to overservice, are based on what you can hear, smell, and see. DUI law is based on specialized testing using instruments to determine things like blood alcohol content, while liquor law is based on observed signs of intoxication. The WSLCB uses DUI stats and place-of-lax drink stats as indicators that a premises might have a problem. So it does not matter how the patron plans to get home. The liquor law remains the same. Even if a patron who's displaying signs of intoxication tells you that they're not going to drive, that they're just going to walk home, they still must be cut off. If someone's been drinking, you probably want to ask them how they plan to get home safely. If there are indications that the person plans to drive, you may want to suggest alternate forms of transportation to keep you, your employees, and everyone in the community safe. Notify 911 if necessary. If you decide to deny the sale or service of alcohol to a patron, here are some general guidelines. Be polite. Remember that people who've been drinking have the potential to lose their sense of reasoning. Tell the person that state law requires you to stop alcohol sales, service, or possession when signs of intoxication are exhibited. Let them know that you value them as a customer, but state law is very specific and you don't want to get into trouble. Don't argue with them, but be firm. Offer to get or sell them a non-alcoholic beverage. Offer to call a cab for them so they don't drive. Document cutoffs in a logbook as a defense if an overservice complaint is received or a civil lawsuit arises after a patron is removed from the premises. In addition to that, it is highly recommended that this logbook be used for any incident. If there is a fight inside of your premises, if there is an overserved person, determining and documenting the date, the time, the employee who dealt with it is always a good idea to cover the business and to cover your employees. Blame state law, blame us in the liquor board, but ultimately it is your responsibility. Blame state law. These are two signs that are required for certain businesses. You can find the required signs here, or you can give me. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope you got something out of it that will help keep yourself, the business, and your community safer. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, this is an abbreviated version of the presentation, so if you'd like an enforcement officer to come out and provide the full presentation to you or your team, please give me a call or send me an email and I can get that set up for you. It's completely free and it's completely on your schedule. Thanks again and have a great day.